gone. Good morning. We'll try to get underway. We've got a busy day. It's just gone 9:30. Councillor Huata, would you lead us in a karakia, please?
Tātou te whānau me ngā ihi me ngā mana kei roto I te ruma kia inoi tātou tūtawa mai runga, tūtawa mai raro, tūtawa mai roto, tūtawa mai waho, kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa, tūturu whakamaua kia tēnā, haumi e hui e, from above, from below, from all of the sides, in and out, let all the peace and clarity reign for us to do our hui well. Tēnā tātou.
Kia ora. Thank you for that. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the last Economic Development Committee of the year. I know you're all very sad. Some of the staff are less sad, apparently. We do have a busy day because we've got a hard finish around midday for an extraordinary meeting of council, and I want to make sure you get a lunch break. It doesn't mean we skip any of the important business. We've just got to keep focused. So I will quickly move the apologies. I have a full apology from Councillor Cash, Councillor Mark, a partial attendance from Mayor Paula. I understand Councillor Huata needs to leave at some stage during the day.
I'll be fine.
You're excellent. I was getting a little worried. We've got Councillor Moku who's online. Good morning. But I think you also need to leave slightly earlier, around 10:30, I think, I read. Excellent. Okay, so we'll be mindful of that. And Councillor Jeff is on his way. He's just at an appointment, so he'll be slightly late. Right, I'll move, seconded by Councillor Sarah. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against?
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to the confirmation of the agenda. The agenda is as per the run sheet. I'll move, seconded by Councillor Emma. All those in favour say aye. Those against?
The motion was moved unanimously.
You realise, James, we just do that for the voice, right? It's, we love the accent. It does. I'm trying to coordinate the music to come in at the same time. It would be quite uplifting. Opportunity for declarations of interest. No declarations. Excellent. And public forum. I have no notification of public forum. So I'm now moving to confirm the open minutes of the 24th of October. Thank you. I was about to say Minister of Finance, but thank you, Chair Maxine. Seconded by Councillor Tim. Now you're on the record, Tim. Are there any corrections required? None? I'll move. It's now been moved. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against?
The motion was carried unanimously.
Right. Colleagues, we're making great progress. We are now at the Chair's report. And I wonder if I could ask two guests, Brian and David, to come up just to the speaking mics. Colleagues, I'll move my report, seconded by Councillor Emma. Just a couple of things I would like to highlight in the report. In addition to the report, since the report was drafted, we had the wonderful visit from Logan City, which Deputy Mayor Angela has covered in depth. I will just add that although there's not a sister city opportunity, I think there's definitely an opportunity for a close economic relationship. And I look forward to continuing the dialogue, and I think the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor are continuing to have discussions with Logan. There are some strong economic connections, and I know Mike Bennett is doing some further work on exploring what those are, particularly in the area of low altitude economy. which is, if you think of how impactful the internet was, the low altitude economy is, I think, the next revolution, and it's coming to cities near you soon. And so we will be working very closely with Logan to see how that develops, because they are currently involved with a development with Wisk, who's partially owned by Boeing, and I think Google is involved, so it's quite significant. The other thing I'd like to quickly add to my report is the economic impact we're expecting from the Barmy Army's visit to the city for the third test. Now, I'm pretending to be Mark Donovan when I'm... Oh, excellent. Sorry, I thought of you and here you appear. Mark,
It's just like a vision from the future. Here I am.
Yes. I'm not going to make any comment about that. Mark, would you like to...
Actually, it may not have come out that well.
Would you like to make any comment adding to our report just regarding the Barmy Army?
I would, if that's okay, because I did actually go to the point to the effort of writing up some notes about it. So just bear with me. I'll just bring those up. I wasn't expecting to get there so quickly, but here we go. Come on. Right. First of all, apologies that I wasn't there on time. I appreciate that the meeting's moving along at a good pace, but I did a little bit of research just for those of you who don't know about the Barmy Army. They're actually defined as a, not defined, but what we would call a magnificent sporting movement. The Collins Dictionary defines the word Barmy as slightly crazy or very foolish. And they are known, and I wonder is James in the chamber by any chance? Because I was going to get him to do a rendition of their chant that they sing out. I mean, I could try and do an English accent, but it'll probably come out terrible. But he's not there by any chance, is he?
No, he's not.
Okay, all right. Well, they sing, they shout out, Barmy Army shouted out, "Come on England," and they sing that repetitively, and tends to reverberate around stadiums, and it has a fantastic sound to it. But they actually came about as a result of a tour that they did to Australia back in 1994, on a tour to see Australia play England. They pretty much knew that they were walking into a cauldron of potentially getting a bit of a hiding from the Australian cricket team. They actually defined it as near certain knowledge that their team would lose. But the fact that they kept on chanting encouragement for the team was, the most notable aspect of their kind of coming to fruition. The good news about this cricket test, which is coming up, is that Hamilton is the only Upper North Island city to be hosting the test. We're estimating well in excess of over 1,000 international visitors to our city, which naturally contributes to our region's tourism and hospitality sectors. So I think that, looking at it from that aspect, it's further cementing Hamilton's reputation as being a premier destination for sporting events. And the reason we can host these events is because we've got world-class stadiums like FMG Stadium and Seddon Park, which are absolutely fantastically well maintained by KJ and his team. So, big shout out to him for the work that him and his team do, and also all of the guys at all of the team at H3. This is really a chance for us to shine on the world stage, and I would encourage all Hamiltonians, as well as elected members, everyone around the town, to just let's give these guys an unforgettable experience in our city, is how I would phrase it. The test starts on December the 14th. Should it go 5 days, it would finish on the 18th. Here's hoping that when it comes time for our time to shine on the international stage and the third test, that we are looking at the potential of being included in the World Test Finals again, which we were successful in a few years ago.
Thank you
That's
for
all from
that,
me.
Mark.
Yeah.
I think we all join in encouraging significant participation, and we look forward to the international guests. Colleagues, the other main...
And I just,
sorry?
one more apology. You may see me around in a pink and maroon striped blazer during that time where I'll be representing Seven Cricket. Probably should have declared that as a conflict of interest potentially, but anyway, that just shows you my love and passion for the game, which I've played for a long, long time. Thanks.
It won't be the first time we've seen you dressed up, Mark, in that outfit, and we look forward to seeing it again. So we're now on to the final aspect of my report, which is a presentation from Pu'uwai. Good morning, David and Brian. We've circulated the slides, and I think we have the slides ready to go here. We're in your hands. 5 minutes, and then I think there may be some questions. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Yeah, it's great to be here today talking about our project and our vision. Pu'uwai was the name that was gifted to us by local iwi when we blessed the site. It means blooming and growth, and it was quite fitting for the project that we are commencing. So what our long-term strategy is for this a multimodal freight hub, and a multimodal that's air, rail, road, and obviously with the rail you get access to sea as well, so it's multimodal. The type of sort of a hub that is not very common in New Zealand due to, I suppose, congestion around certain major cities. With the site that we've sort of got control of, we've got the ability to have the rail to runway within about 3 kilometres. So nowhere else in New Zealand do we have a rail, the main trunk rail line, a runway and a road of national significance running right through the middle. So it creates a huge opportunity for the region. And the growth that can come from it sort of aligns strongly with the Waikato, or the regional development of the Waikato. We see this project as, to be a success, it's got to be, I suppose, a coalition of the willing between, local investors, central, regional and local government, because it's too big for any one party to progress by themselves. What this would see, we believe this would bring a huge amount of growth to the region. The nature of a multimodal hub is the efficiency of freight movement, which obviously reduces cost and increases the time to market for various products, be it coming into the country or out of the country. It also secures transport resilience for New Zealand. We've got a situation where, Hamilton Airport there is around about 47 metres, 45 metres above sea level. You start to look wider afield in terms of natural disasters, things like, if the Kermadec Trench was to go, the whole of the east coast of New Zealand, all those ports would be out, the airports would be out, the only deep water port left will be in Taranaki. So this, from a New Zealand Inc. perspective, provides a huge amount of resilience. Also, we saw what happened with Cyclone Gabriel and Auckland getting a bit wet. It's probably only going to become wetter too as climate change takes effect. We know in the next 30 years, 18 of our major runways will be underwater. That doesn't include Hamilton. So they will engineer around that, but it's a huge cost in the sector that has to be factored in. We see the potential for Pu'uwai and its sort of, in its proximity to Hamilton Airport, working alongside Auckland to accommodate their growth and create a strong, productive corridor across the sort of the central North Island, upper North Island region, where a significant portion of produce is grown and available for export. The map there just indicates a high level in terms of the zones we're looking at. We've been talking with international specialists around airport design, and this is the third time we've gone back to them because we're now at a point where we've got some scale. Previously, we didn't have the scale to allow this to be on the table for them to consider what is possible. So it's a unique proposition for the Waikato and unique proposition for New Zealand in terms of having a greenfield site of that scale to plan for the future. And it is intergenerational thing. This thing will take many years, but it's about planning for that eventuality over time. You know, you think back to Auckland Airport many years ago when it was surrounded by farmland, and how that's been developed and the congestion issues that have come about. On the next slide, it's just a slightly zoomed in, sort of so you get an idea. So it's an indicative, you know, rail to the runway connection. How that will come to pass will be subject to planning and design, but this indicates what is possible. It indicates a runway extension there, and there is that slight shaded block to the north up the top there that you know could be available for future extensions as well. I know when we've been talking with the guys down at Christchurch Airport, and they've talked about with technology, with hybrid technology, electrification of planes, it's likely that runways will need to be longer because of the longer takeoff length required. So it's about planning for the future, because we can do that now. In 50 years or 100 years' time, it just becomes too hard, particularly when we've got roads of national significance that can be dropped a few metres lower. So what do? We're trying to, as I say, it's a bit of a coalition of the willing, bringing those parties together to try and affect some change for the benefit of the region. We've got strong engagement with Mana Whenua, and obviously we've been going around all the local bodies that are the shareholders in the airport and affected to what we're looking at, and also you know, obviously there's been you know, there's got to be discussions at central government level as well. International partners that I've referred to who are experts in planning and designing airports, and you know, we've got ways to help bring the funding to the table to help this all happen. Going back to the runway extension, in the past, the comment, the sort of reporting is there is no business case for a runway extension. But what we're saying now is actually this needs a new business case. The old business case was based on a much smaller footprint, and when you're dealing with a smaller footprint with capital constraints, the decisions of the past were more than likely the right decisions. But this is a new set of facts and that come to the front with this project. Therefore, it needs a new business case, and you know that is why the business case of old needs to be renewed. We believe that we can bring, as I say, bring to the table the ability to help fund. And also, we've got the land that we can bring into the mix as we need be. This is not a personal legacy project or something that we want to be sort of have our name in lights. This is something that we just see it's the best thing for the region. We want to make sure it's planned, as I say, for the future. I know Brian Herman, who's not here today, and I quite often think, you know, our kids and grandkids, we don't want them sort of saying, oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? Because if you don't do it now, the opportunity will go, and that airport will continue to be sold, the land will be sold off, and we'll be left with a postage stamp that becomes no more than what will be a very small regional airport, which will be a shame. It's got the opportunity to attract long haul, and that's wide body freight and passengers, and importantly, substantially increase the value of that airport for the stakeholders, which are the local councils. So we see securing that extension critical, because if it lapses, the ability to renew it is very high risk. Benefits for the local economy, you know, the minute you're getting wide body airplanes into Hamilton, they say that the data is that 80% of people settle where they land. At the moment, people are landing to come and live in New Zealand, in either Auckland or Christchurch. New Zealand's population needs to grow. Our core population isn't growing, and we're only going to grow by immigration. We look at what's happening out at Peacocks and all that housing. You know, it's about providing industry for these people to work in, and you know, grow the region. It already is the fastest growing region in New Zealand, and it can, you know, I believe we can do better than that. Sustainability is a big part. You know, by making this airport wide body capable, every plane coming into Auckland would no longer have to carry an extra 3.5 tonne. Sorry, every wide body aircraft coming into Auckland Airport wouldn't have to carry an extra 3.5 tonne of fuel because their alternate landing airport is Christchurch. So when you're averaging 50 to 60 wide-body landings in Auckland a day, that is a significant volume of fuel just being carted through the air for no benefit and an environmental footprint which is not ideal. Again, getting the multimodal hub going takes trucks off the road. We know that trucks do not pay their fair share of road users, and that's why rail struggles. That's a separate discussion, but there is a significant capacity on the rail to take freight off the road that is currently going up and down the roads on trucks. So it's about efficiency of movement, reducing the carbon footprint, and maximising value for those parties as well. But I think the key is it's maximising the shareholder value. You've got an airport that on the books is worth about $250 million. Compare that to Christchurch, which is about $2.5 billion. If Hamilton could get about 10% of what Auckland's doing at the moment, it'll be of similar scale to Queenstown Airport. That recently paid a $25 million dividend to its shareholders. So there's huge opportunity here, and it'd be a real shame to see this go and not be utilised by a designation lapse for the runway extension. There we go.
David, thank you so much. Look, I was slightly rude at the beginning, not giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself properly, and Brian. So if you'd like to do that, just...
Yeah, sure. So David Heald, I've, I suppose my day job is I'm a partner at Baker Tilly here in town, but I'm involved in a lot of other projects such as this, and been working with Brian for about 15 years now, Brian Herman. Yep. First met him when we were both on the board at St Peters, so we've had a long road in governance and strategy, and we've just been working on this for some time and see it as an opportunity where we want to consider the what if before we carry on and do what we do, and we're very passionate about seeing growth in the Waikato, and Brian Henry's keeping me in check.
That's about right.
Legal advisor.
Well, look, thank you. You're very welcome. Colleagues, I've opened it up for questions. Councillor Maxine.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your presentation. It looks like a great future project. First time that I guess our eyes have been across this, and so it's really new to us. Have you worked with the Future Proof committee at all in being able to socialise this? And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. Yep.
And it's been endorsed at this stage, or are you still in the early stages of that?
Early on we've met with, it's ongoing engagement with Future Proof, but yes, we have, in terms of the land holdings, we have presented a couple of times now to Future Proof. We've engaged with the Regional Council and Tracy at the Regional Council, who obviously is linked in with Future Proof, and also through other members of Future Proof in terms of how this fits. Also with being in Waipa Zone, the Ahuaki plan working on at the moment has identified this as a growth area around the airport, so it's all sort of been populated and in the mix.
Okay, I think that's great. And so you started to talk about what next steps are. What is it that you're seeking from us today?
Seeking some. The key for us is us is a very wide us. It's not me. It's us as a region, is making sure that designation to extend the runway does not lapse in June 26, and there's some action about making stuff happen.
Well, that's not at odds with some of our feelings too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew.
Thank you. Could you expand on what government support there is, like who you've talked to and what their reaction has been?
It's mainly confidential.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's quite confidential. Yeah.
I saw the positive reactions out of Jones.
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah. So it's probably similar to what Minister Jones has been communicating directly with the airport about
Yeah.
making stuff happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Huata.
Tēnā kōrua, thank you for your presentation. My question is pertaining to mana whenua. What does that relationship look like and what does it consist of?
So we're working through with Tuku Morgan and some of his some people around him to get an MOU in place. because we've recognised that there is no mana whenua representation on the airport board, given that it is their land, and think that that's something that needs to be factored into this.
So representation on the board is a possibility.
That's my view on it. That's up to you guys appoint the board, the directors. So that's it's a Hamilton City. But I was surprised that there's no.
Dropping down to a bit of detail, and maybe that's coming later on. You did talk about the sustainability and climate. Have you also considered the impacts on water?
Yes.
Right. Cool.
Yes. I mean, we've been looking at our site is. A lot of that land we're looking at being sort of self-contained in terms of water, in terms of stormwater, wastewater. There are bores on the site. It is across the site there. It is the start of Mystery Creek, so it is an important waterway. And yes, that's all part of our planning. Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Emma.
Thank you, Chair Ewan. Look, you mentioned briefly about a $25 million return for Queenstown Airport and the shareholders. If this plan should be successful and go ahead, when should Hamilton ratepayers expect to start to see a return on this investment?
I don't know. I mean, it's an infrastructure investment that always has a longer term payback. We're very much at the starting line. I think it also depends on how much Hamilton City wants to invest in order to get a return. Because it's if it's not Hamilton City wanting to invest to get a return, then somebody needs to invest in this project. If Hamilton City doesn't invest, they will by default benefit from it because they will still retain a shareholding and as the airport becomes profitable. But at the moment, the current sort of strategy for the airport is the selling of land, and there's only so much land you can sell, and then you don't have anything to make profit from. Yeah. Terminal business plan, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, David and Brian. I was just interested in your comments around electric planes potentially needing a longer runway. Can you just talk to that a little bit more? Because, yeah, interested. It's something that until not long ago I didn't realise.
Yeah, and I was the same. It wasn't until we had a meeting with the guys down at Christchurch Airport, and they provided that information to us in terms of, you know, I think Auckland's 4 kilometres long. The extension here would take this runway to about 2.7, I think it is, 2.8. But I think Christchurch are at just over 3, and they're sort of saying, well, you know, it could be as long as 3.5 k's. But again, this is information they've provided based on their research, so I don't have any more detail on that.
Right. So even with the current designation, is there a risk then that it still isn't long enough?
There is a risk, but it's long enough for you know anything that currently flies, possibly with the exception of an A380. So your 777s, your 787s, your 350s, 747s, which is what is flying for the foreseeable future. But it's about, again, planning for it, because there is that area of land north of the airport that's been marked out on a title that currently has Southern Links going through it, and that's the sort of thing, well, Southern Links isn't built yet, so you drop Southern Links down a little bit lower, so if in 50 or 100 years you need to extend it, you can go over the top of it. So it's just about future planning, because a couple extra metres or 3 metres deeper, you know, of excavation when you're building a hundreds of $1 million road is immaterial. But once it's there, you can't drop it later. So that's all it is. It's about planning for that.
Thank you. It's helpful. Yeah.
Excellent. I don't see any further questions. I just have a couple. Could you expand on where you see the investment coming from to enable the lengthening of the runway? There's some general consensus that some of the shareholders would be reluctant to put money in. What's your view? Does Puhoi have an idea of how it could be funded? And the second limb to the question is, have you turned your mind to the costs? And do you believe that the figures that are currently being spoken about are accurate? Is there a way of breaking those down into components? Your view on?
Yeah. In terms of funding it, we do believe there's a way to do it. It's probably not appropriate in this forum to talk about that, because it is confidential. But yes, I think with the discussions we're having with various parties, yes. Yeah, and it basically requires council and central government to work together.
To work together.
Yeah, because this is we see this as I'll say a privately owned airport being owned by the councils and potentially the government, not getting into an Infratil or someone like that who would then maximise the profit for shareholders, much like Auckland Airport. Auckland Airport's a property company, maximise its profits for the shareholders. It just happens to be the main gateway to New Zealand. I see Hamilton Airport, similar to Christchurch, I suppose, where that's council and government owned. It becomes a key gateway to the North Island for the nation's resilience. In terms of costs, we have requested more detail on costs, but we haven't been available. They haven't been made available. The number goes anywhere from 70 to 130 million. And I think it's important to understand what's in that. From my understanding, it's not only the airport extension, it includes all the taxiways, terminal upgrades, etc. But the reality is to extend the runway for the designation is just a runway extension. It doesn't require everything else. We're talking about, was it 700 metres or 600 metres of runway. That's 45 metres wide. So, if that was excavated out and filled with concrete, you're talking about $7 to $8 million worth of concrete. And then a bit of asphalt on top. So it's sort of thing that, as a holding pattern, because we're not talking about this happening in the next, becoming a fully fledged international airport in the next few years, because this takes time. But to save that designation, there is probably some minimal works that can be done to action the commencement of it, because the works only need to commence within that 15-year period. And then the rest can come in time as the opportunity presents itself. But that can't come if the designation is let lapse.
Great, thank you. And my last question, David, how is the discussions with the airport company going? Are they engaging? Is there a willingness to work with you and your interests?
I would say respectfully, they're a little bit fractious. So there is.
Would you like to try to suggest why that would be?
They're not. Look, and Mr. Morgan's made it pretty clear they're not very happy with us talking to the shareholders before we talk to them. But I think when you're looking at the scale of this project, it becomes, and the nature of the Waikato Regional Airport Limited being a council-controlled organisation, this matter is a matter of significant strategy and investment, which becomes a shareholder board matter, not a management matter, which is why we started talking to the shareholders first. My view is that at the moment it seems to be that some of the discussions we've had with various councils is the whole matter of the airport, runway designation is a matter for the airport company, therefore they defer it to the board. When talking with the board, they defer it to management. So it all comes back to, unless we get a recommendation from management, and then unless the shareholders get a recommendation from the board, we sit here very hand-tied. And this issue is too big to be handed to management. It is a strategic matter which has got significant consequences for the region and the council shareholders, and it needs to be elevated up.
And finally, who have you spoken to in terms of the other councils, both elected members and senior executives, and the airport company?
We've had probably 2 or 3 discussions with Waipa, including Mayor and then also new CEO. We've had obviously discussions with Hamilton City. While they're not a shareholder, we've had engagement with the regional council. We have had discussions, telephone discussions with the other 3 councils, but there has been not an unwillingness, but an inability to get FaceTime with them because they've been busy.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Southgate.
Thank you. You're in the middle of a business case at the moment, your own business case, aren't you? With certain parties?
In a way, yes. Yep.
I thought when we had a meeting in my office, I thought that was what you were hoping for, is that the extension of the runway, there was no barriers to the extension of the runway while you conducted with some other partners a business case analysis?
Yes, and we requested further information from airport management, some of the reports they'd cited, and we haven't been able to get copies of those.
Okay, so those documents are already existing around strategic projects in the airport, or what?
There were, so we have a confidentiality agreement in place with the airport management, and under that we requested a couple of consultant documents or reports that consultants have done previously on the whole project, and we, because at the end of the day, if you're to present a business case, you want to make sure it's apples with apples, that we're covering everything that has previously been covered, rather than going in blind.
So the business brokers for Changi Airport were part of your conversations. Are they still keen to undertake a business case on behalf of this? That's not the airport company itself, but the subsidiary or the...
Yeah, their consultant, the consultancy arm of Changi.
Yeah, and they're still keen to finish that. And that's what the next step were to be, to finish a business cost. And you are saying there's some bits missing from the information?
Well, also, yes and no, because there's a significant cost in getting that report done by Changi, and we need more assurances in terms of what's happening, because as I touched on before, it's been told to us, go out and get your business case and present that to management. Management will review that, and then they'll go to the board as to whether or not the business case gets accepted. And then the board, if it does accept it, review it, whether or not they pass it on to the shareholders. I believe that is not the right way to do this.
Oh, no, it would always come to the shareholders.
Would it?
Yep, no, I can guarantee you that. But what I'm interested in is so you're paying for the business case and the Changi consultants are doing it, you're paying them, likely to pay them when you get this information that you need? Who's doing the business case? You're not asking.
He's answered that question.
He's not asking for council money.
He's answered the question.
No, not
What he
asking
said
for
is
council.
there's a component of information
Yeah, I get that.
that the airport company hasn't provided that they would find helpful.
Yeah, I hear that. Thank you.
And can I also just caution, you made a comment in the chamber that this would definitely come to council. Can I remind you that in fact the airport company chose to surrender the designation with no dialogue with council?
Yes,
so
but
I'm Mayor Paula, I have the floor. I'm somewhat astounded that you would make such a bold statement in the chamber when in fact the decision to surrender the designation never came back to the shareholders.
May I complete my thinking, please, Mr. Chair?
Well,
May I complete my thinking?
You can complete your questions,
Yes.
Mayor Paula.
Your
Your thinking can be in the debate.
Yeah, yeah. There's
So
a lot
questions?
you've had a few comments as chair, and there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of keen interest on this project. That's why I'm saying all the mayors are aware of it. There is no way it would go through the board without coming through us. Right, that's my point. Just in terms of the wide body versus the narrow body jets, and I'm not the expert that other people are in planes and so on. My understanding was lengthening the runway is one thing. If you go to wide body jets, you've got to strengthen the entire runway. You've got to...
Again, this was some of the reports, because there were some previous reports done for the airport on the classification of the current runway.
Okay.
And one of those reports indicated that the current runway strength was capable of withstanding a 777, which is one of the more heavier aircraft. So, and then so that's again, we're sort of we're a little bit sort of blind on some of the information that we asked.
Cool, thank you, that's helpful. And in terms of this overall project, you're talking about potential council investment, etc. Do you see this as a potential public-private partnership? Is that what you're seeking in this venture, or are you asking council to do the airport precinct and allow you to develop your commercial precinct?
We're open to anything.
Okay, cool.
We're open to anything because this project is bigger than any one of us. And if
it's a big,
it's
big
huge,
project.
it's huge, and that's why I sort of go, well, one thought, there's one view that says, well, actually, surely everything should just be in one large airport company, because when you've got an airport that controls 1,100 hectares of land, great things can happen. We've got no fixed agenda on that, and completely open to any possibility.
So step 1, have the information. Step 2, business case. Step 3, conversations about who might be in partnership. Is that a simplistic summary of what we're looking at?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right. I don't see any other questions. David and Brian, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you coming along and providing the information you have. Colleagues, the report, my chair's report, has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions on my report? If not, I'll move it for the debate. Since I moved it, I will quickly just highlight that I'm really pleased that we've had an opportunity to hear from our presenters today. I think it highlights the importance of how information flows, and I have, and you will have heard me for many years express my concern that the current structure of Hamilton Airport with its shareholders is broken. And I reiterate that in light of the fact that the CCO model is often used as the airport relationship is used in the water context, that as we move towards 3 waters, well, 2 waters in the new creation of a CCO, it will be the same sort of model. And I'm reminded at how quickly things can lead to us not being in control of assets. And I'm particularly concerned about how in this case we've had a CCO make a decision to surrender a designation that potentially has huge ramifications, huge financial ramifications, and there was no dialogue with its shareholders. It was unilateral. And again, I see a scenario where the CCO believes they've engaged by talking to, the mayors and the chief executives. And I remind everybody that, in fact, the mayors and the chief executives need to make sure that when decisions are made and votes are placed, it is on the basis of a motion from this chamber. And I'm pleased that the sunlight is now being shone there. So anyway, that was just my comments. Any other speakers? Councillor Emma.
Thank you, Chair Ewan. Look, just being the last committee of the year, I just wanted to try end on a positive note. And thank you, Chair, and Deputy Mark, for your leadership this year. We've facilitated some challenging debates, but also enjoyed some wins. And you've also opened up some great tours for the committee in terms of Union Square, Maid and Fonterra, which have helped strengthen our relationships in the community. So thank you very much for your work in this space. I also want to thank our amazing staff for the support and guidance for Hamilton business and our people. We consistently hear in the community, such positive feedback. So thank you for the support, because it's a reflection of your hard work. It's been an exciting year, and we've seen significant progress that reflects Hamilton's growth and potential, being the fastest growing city for the second year in a row, and it's seen some exciting announcements, including the return of the international flights from the Hamilton Airport after a 13-year gap, and the potential development of Te Puawai, which we look forward to hearing more information about here today, and hopefully with a less turbulent future. We've also had the exciting announcement of new hotels in the city centre, which highlights our expanding reputation as an overnight destination for visitors and investors. So look forward to lots of potential there. Of course, lots of challenges remain, especially around long-term financial sustainability, but equally these are opportunities to find some solutions. So I just want to thank everyone who's played a role in helping getting some of these deals across the line, and look forward to hopefully seeing some spades in the ground in the year ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Emma. Thank you for those kind words. You covered a lot of the stuff that I should have, and I appreciate it. I went off on a tangent. Councillor Mark.
Thanks, Chair Ewan. Hey, Councillor Emma has done an outstanding job of conveying a lot of what I was going to also say as well. So thank you very much, Councillor Emma. And just a nod to you, Chair Ewan, for your work that you've done this year as well. Thank you very much for your leadership in this space. But I'd also like to weigh in and just thank staff for all of their effort. Blair and your team, you do a tremendous job behind the scenes there. Mike Bennett, Arif, everyone in that space has been a really significant contributor to Councillor Ewan and Chair Ewan and myself being able to function as we do in our roles within this committee. So thank you, staff, for your efforts. It is noted and very much appreciated.
Thanks, Councillor. Mayor Paula.
Thank you. Emma stole some of my thunder. I read the agenda last night and looked at your report, Ewan, and I thought, goodness, you've only focused on one or two things when we know you've done a lot more. So I did want to particularly acknowledge you, and as it's the last meeting of this year, your meeting, isn't it? Yeah. I said at the beginning, show me the hotel, and we are progressing really nicely with 2 hotels, or maybe even 3. So I'm really delighted with the work done in that. I want to commend you on the work that's been done around the MEF, Municipal Endowment Fund, getting that up so it's going to be legitimately something that returns benefits to the ratepayer. And just on that comment, I think through this committee we need to be open always to wise investment, although we're not investors per se. We have to be very careful with public money. But we can be an enabler, and we can be helpful in areas where our city might benefit from investment, and we need to be careful and considered and open in the way that we do that. Certainly like some of the innovative thinking. You have been on a couple of business trips where you've looked at innovative ideas, and I'm excited about some of those in the future as we start to put some flesh on those bones. Meanwhile, what we've already got on our plate with the MEF and the medical school regional deals, we've got a really important piece of work to do around regional deals that we need that sort of economic lens on as well. Not just for us, but for the wider Waikato. And I'm really pleased with the progress that's been made with the medical school. And that does show that when we pull together politically, we can make a difference in Wellington in terms of what they're hearing. So thank you for your work this year. I'm going to keep you busy next year, though, because it's a lot to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Paul. Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair Ewan. I want to repeat 3 words that David said in his presentation about the airport. New Zealand Inc. This airport is essential for New Zealand's resilience long term. We need to keep an open mind, look at the big picture, look at the whole country, and say we need to make this happen, not just for Hamilton, but for all of New Zealand. It has to happen.
Colleagues, I think that's everybody. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour of receiving the report say aye. Those against?
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Now moving to item 7, external agencies. We've got Karen Saunders and Matt Mills. Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
Kia ora, good morning.
We're in your hands, and we'll let you introduce your guests subsequently when you're ready.
Awesome, thank you very much. So kia ora, councillors. So for those of you who I haven't met, which I think is almost everyone now, except maybe Andrew, I'm Matt Mills, so I'm the new Central City Transformation Manager. Just before I introduce Vanessa, I'd just like to highlight some of the key work we've been doing in the Central City since I've started, and as we prepare for the new theatre opening in the next year or so. So what has been unofficially termed clean up on aisles 3 and 4, we've been steam cleaning precincts from, Garden Place to Hood Street. We've removed some old bollards, some ashtrays, cleared some dead trees in Hood Street. We've straightened some tree cages. Rain gardens and new plantings are planned for next year as well to bring that back up. We've also cleaned some light poles, and we've got down Hood Street, and we've got some repainting scheduled shortly. So we're excited about what we've achieved so far, and we're looking forward to the next phase of works, which is planned for next year to really complement the soon-to-be open theatre and to continue to enhance the vibrancy and enable some more economic activity in the CBD. So with that, we'll take the report as read, and I will hand over to Vanessa and Mike.
Excellent. Before that, yes. Colleagues, do you have any questions of Matt on his update? No? Okay, great.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Vanessa and Mike.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Very warm welcome. We're in your hands.
Okay, so thank you for letting me actually defer the date for the report. So I do appreciate the report was for the first half of the year and that I was unable to be here to present at an earlier meeting. So thank you for letting me do it today. With that in mind, I thought it might be useful just to provide a couple of points about what's happening actually at the moment versus what's in the report 6 months ago, although it does just add to that. So I'm going to start with the negative, which, you know, I don't want to do, but there are some negatives out there, and then end on the positive, which is always nicer. So I will say at the moment there are some businesses very much hurting out there. It's a really tough time. There's some sectors in particular that have been doing it particularly hard for the last few years, and then this year has really been exacerbated that situation, specifically retail and hospitality. And I think that's widely recognised, but harder economic conditions have really highlighted the difficulties for those sectors. We are continuing to see CBD spend come down. So unfortunately there is less money circulating. Pedestrian data also showing a reduction in foot traffic. Just as an example, October last year to October this year is showing weekday traffic down 12.4% and weekend traffic down 8.4%. So there are less people walking around. We know probably for the Monday to Friday, the working from home plays a part in this data, particularly from some larger employers and particularly on Mondays and Fridays. So just to highlight that. Antisocial behaviour continues to be very, very challenging, and the impact is felt quite keenly by the business community. And the last bullet point in this area, retail and office vacancy rates are continuing to rise as economic pressures continue to be battled. So that's just a bit of a state of the nation of some of the unfortunate things that are being dealt with at the moment. But on a positive side, I'll go to the presentation that we've got. So if I can go back a slide, that would be great. So rediscover the heart of the city. So we have relaunched our Love the Centre brand and created, or in the process of creating, a one-stop shop of where you can find out any information as a visitor, whether you're a local or a visitor into Hamilton. You can find out whatever you need to know about the city centre by going to this website. So we have everything around what to do, see, shop, experience, basically, and enjoy in the central city. So all things that people can come in and love, or if you're a local, what you can come in and rediscover that you used to love about the central city that's still here. So it is a work in progress, and that we're continuing to put data into this. It's continuing to showcase businesses and their promotions and storytelling. But as you can appreciate, there are a fair few businesses, and there's only 2 of us, so we're continuing to work to get this data in there. But we have had some incredibly positive feedback so far. Site traffic is being monitored, and we've got a lot of people coming to the site. It's also being utilised to feed out through all our social media channels as well. So just really good that we're basically connecting all our brand channels of Love the Centre to really showcase the central city. If I can go to the next slide, please. Recently, we just held our annual CBD Awards, again branded under Love the Centre, and we had the opportunity to showcase a fantastic new development site at 18 London Street that's been purchased by Matt Stark, and as we do like to say, we know that when Matt Stark's purchased a building, it's in safe hands. So we're excited to see what this is going to look like in the new year. In the interim, we got to see it very much as a construction zone on the evening, very much a construction zone. But it was fun. People really enjoyed the opportunity to see something that was, so stripped back and imagining what that's going to look like in the new year. The awards themselves was fantastic. We had a record number of entries, of 137 entries across the business community, just showing that there really is a want to have recognition to try and celebrate what has been achieved in a particularly difficult year. And we got to celebrate that with over 250 people on the evening, which was brilliant. If I could go to the next slide, please. And lastly, just to highlight some of our central city events, we continue to get good traction with our events, and we held approximately 100 over the last calendar year. And there has certainly been some ones that have got some fantastic numbers. We can see Round the Bridges there, which they had a sellout this year before the race, which was brilliant to see. And we've tried a few different things, like closing a street down by Vetro and doing a spring festival with some challenging weather conditions, but still we had many people come down and enjoy the opportunity to be socialising on the street and going to businesses around and about in the area. So, events does continue to be a draw card, and we do a range from the smaller events that we might put on through to larger events that we help to support. And obviously December and February, March are our highlight seasons for events, so there's a fair few things planned in for summer in the city, and we invite you to go to lovethecentre.co.nz for all of that information. Thank you.
Right.
That's all.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, happy to open it up for questions. I have Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in this morning. In terms of the vacancy rates, what percentage are we at, and how do they compare to, like, say, the GFC and?
I don't know.
No.
You're on.
So we're just in process of doing the occupancy surveys now for
Yeah.
the end of year. We're at about 9.5% for office and 8.5% for retail.
Yeah.
We'll actually make comment around how we're in the GFC. We didn't start doing the surveys until about 2009, so it was sort of the end of it.
Yeah.
But we're actually getting to very similar levels where it was, and I think when you look at what we've got coming up at the end of the year, they'll be very similar to GFC levels.
Yeah.
Although in saying that, particularly for office, we've got a lot more A and B grade office now, which are low. We used to have a lot of really poor quality, which was really hammered when we had the GFC.
Thank you. And for events, do you know, Vanessa, how I guess what the council puts into events in the central city compares to other centres in New Zealand?
Sorry, do you mean the money that we
Debt
So
versus,
generally council contributes 100,000, but
Yes.
then there may be some other funding that goes to events in the central city. I was just interested in whether, how it compares to other centres in terms of...
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know what else council puts in, so I don't know I'm not privy to the amounts that are put into such signature events like balloons or round the bridges. I know they're also supported by council, but I'm not sure to what extent.
Okay.
Yeah. But every city or every city centre does have some funding element that goes to events. I could certainly provide you some information later with some of my contacts around the different centres if you wanted.
Yeah, I'd find it helpful, or if our staff are able to help with that as well.
Yeah, I can get
ask
that
too.
information.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair Ewan. Vanessa, Councillor Jeff Taylor is not here at the moment, so could you imagine what questions he would ask about parking and make any comment on parking? Are we heading in the right direction?
Do you know what? It is such a difficult topic. Parking continues to be highlighted as an issue. I don't know how we would ever get to a point where it's not highlighted as an issue. Certainly there was disappointment from the business community going from a 2-hour free parking to a 1-hour free parking. That was always to be expected. There has been some feedback around the communication of the offering, but again, there has been work done in that space as much as that can be done. Commuter parking continues to be raised as an issue. I don't think that we've really helped in anything for commuter parking. I think that's an area that, particularly with buildings now being built with lack of parking, where we're wanting people to be in town working. I've said before, I think the charging on the outskirts of town that aren't in the central city, that would be commuter parking, I find that to be at odds with getting people back into town. Shopping parking, I think, will be very interesting over the Christmas period, because now that's the coming in and out and seeing how well that's utilised. We have noticed that going from 2 hours to 1 hour, and knowing that it's been better monitored, there are more parks available. So it'll be great to see if these are utilised by shoppers. So yeah, two aspects, shopping and commuting. One, I think, will be this Christmas period that will tell a bit more of a story. Commuter, I think, needs work.
Sorry, one issue that's still outstanding, I don't know if it's trying to get it fixed, that when you go in, you've got an hour free parking, you can use the app on your phone to do 15-minute increments, but if you go to the street, you have to use the whole hour all at once. Yeah. And that is an issue, because I know people go, I want to do something here, and then I want to go down the road and do something else. At the moment, they have no ability to, if you're using it on street, one lump of 1 hour.
So that is something that is being worked on to be resolved, but it's not resolved as yet.
Right. Can you imagine Councillor Jeff Taylor thanking you for your answers?
Councillor Emma.
Ewan. Look, you mentioned the 100+ events you've supported in the city, which is fantastic, and thank you so much for your work in this area. Can you please speak a bit about the importance and return that events have in the city?
I think it's enormously important. Often events are like to be aligned with businesses and spend, and I personally think it goes much bigger than this. It's not always to a business benefit, and certainly we have some events where we have, and I've mentioned them before, 70 princesses and superheroes come down for storytelling in Garden Place outside the library that we work with them to do, and it's visually beautiful. It is just so lovely to see spaces being used in that way. Will it benefit the business community? Neither here nor there in terms of a spend across the counter, but it is really great to see things happening, and that is a big part of cities, that there's always something, or as often as possible, something going on. It's great when we can get the big ones, the thousands, the round the bridges, and those sorts of ones are fantastic, but it's just not always realistic to be able to think that we're going to get that size and scale. I think what is so important, though, is actually having any size of events and actually having that recognised and be seen and being promoted and people know that it's going on. And now we have, cities that are actually marketing themselves. I can't remember if I put it in this report or the previous one, but places like Melbourne and Seoul, they're actually have gone so far into the event space, they just market themselves as the events capital of the world. Or, they give themselves social standing on their events. So it sort of shows where cities can go with it.
Thank you. And in terms of non-financial aspects, can you speak about any challenges or support you receive from council, how they might facilitate or have barriers for you putting on events in the city?
I think there's probably a refined process that can be worked through for events. We've had a number of struggles in terms of getting access into Garden Place. That's probably been our most recent one, the bollards. That has recently been resolved, but we were unable to actually have access on a permanent basis into one of our public event spaces. So that's good to have that resolved. We have to do permitting like everybody else. Again, I would think as a contractor to council that there's probably some level of pre-populated templates, so I don't have to sit there and put my name and address and phone number in every time. I think there's some sort of those sort of speed issues that could be further resolved. And I think there's some promotion opportunities that also could be resolved. One of the things that we notice when there's promoted what's on in Hamilton, it's only ever council facilities pretty much that are promoted, which is great. Events, zoo, gardens, we should see all of that. But we should see Garden Place, I would say, as a council property. We should see what's happening in Garden Place promoted. We should see what's happening at Victoria and the River and in other places, so that the central city is actually seen as being a place to be promoted versus we own that facility, so we're only talking to those ones. There's probably a few other bits of red tape that could be tidied up. And I understand that's somewhat underway.
Colleagues, time is going to escape on us. Councillor Emma, are you wanting council to make a note of any instruction maybe to staff about can staff come back to us quickly with a solution for pre-population of these reoccurring okay, because that is just no, I'll add it to the motion, right? Oh.
My LTP motion, reducing red tape and understanding the barriers.
Okay, so
it's already a piece of work that's been done.
okay, I'll leave it in the Deputy Mayor's capable hands. Okay, great. Okay, Councillor Huata.
In the interest of time, I'll keep my questions brief, and I hope the answers are going to be brief too. Sure. So just quickly, I'll start with the easy stuff. Looking at your website, have you thought about having a button that has stay, so where to stay in the city, so they can complement all the other things that you have there? I'm going to get into the hard stuff. When I look at the website, I see nothing at all that reflects me or mana whenua or tangata whenua or any cultural perspective, nothing. I've gone through all of it, except for maybe the museum with Te Winika. It's the only thing. So what can I do to help you make this more reflective of that distinct character that we have in our city that's not being reflected here?
Yep. So I can answer that. There is a whole piece of our former website that we haven't got over yet that we're bringing over, which is all the work that we did around Matariki and stories and storytelling. So we have a whole piece of work that talks to the stories basically around that particular event, and I realise that's quite event specific. We've also had some Māori translations done of Love the Centre, which we have had branded as well. So we're looking at bringing all of that in. And we've also got some additional storytelling that's happening in that space as well. We have tours that we offer around the Māori artwork that hasn't just got on the site
so
yet.
It's on the way.
It's there, and it will come over.
If you need any extra help, Maria Huata,
I would love to talk to you about anything else that we could actually incorporate.
Cool. Okay, my other question is about, you talked about the challenging behaviour that you have in the city.
Yes.
Do you meet with the people that look after perhaps the people you're talking about, like the Serve,
to be able to mitigate some of that behaviour?
Yes, I'm on a number of different groups of people meeting on through interagency groups, which have the serve on. So I met with that. I'm on the People's Project group. I'm on a separate safety advisory group. So
Have you thought about having some of them in your association, rather than you going to the different groups? Having, say, a representative that sits alongside you guys?
because they're all members, because based in the central city, so they're allowed to. I
they
haven't
can
gone
use-
out and actually, yeah, I mean, I don't tend to at board time go out and request people to stand.
Yeah.
So, but there is the opportunity for them to
I think
stand
it would
for the board
help you
they
if
want.
that's a challenge for you to actually be active in that space. But kia ora. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Vanessa and Mike. Just quickly, on the LTP motion that Councillor Hutt and I put forward, reducing red tape, it was supposed to be delivered to elected members in a briefing by this month. Have you been contacted yet?
Yes.
So there's a meeting
contacted last
set? Okay, all
Yes.
right. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, in terms of the information around the spend or, funding for events, is that something we could have as a staff action and then save Vanessa doing that work, but also we may have more access to that information? It would probably be easier.
What wording would you like?
So a staff action to provide the committee information on funding for events in the central city compared to other centres.
All right,
Like
that seems
something
very
like that.
reasonable. Staff, could you make a note of that? And
Yep.
that will
Thank
be
you very
so.
much.
No other questions. I have one, but I always like to go last. Vanessa, thank you for all the work you do. The last time we all chatted, there was a lot of discussion about the state of the wooden furniture. Has any action occurred since then to now?
Yes, with the transport centre and.
What about
that
in
redevelopment.
the heart of the city, in the CBD?
So there has been some taken away, but in terms of replacement, no. Not yet, but I understand it's underway.
Excellent. Karen, did you want to add?
Yes, we've been working through designs and quotes, so there's action in that space, you just can't see it yet.
Yeah.
But weren't we just going to clean some of the wooden furniture?
Some of them were broken.
Most of them.
A lot of it's at end of life, so that's what we're working through now.
Okay, all right. I have no doubt, Vanessa and Mike, you'll remind us at the earliest opportunity if you feel there's not traction there. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Max. Go ahead.
A late addition. Earlier in the year and through the LTP process, there was the discussion of Hamilton East coming into, under your wing actually, and benefiting from all the knowledge and amazing work that's happening. Can you give us a bit of an update on where things are at with that conversation and what your kind of next steps might be?
Yes, so actually we've had a couple more requests from some of the businesses over there to come back into Hamilton East and I don't know if relitigate's the word, but see again if we could get traction now that the process has changed to an online vote. So we actually have that scheduled in the new year to go and talk to the businesses down the main street again and see if there is a want for us to look at expanding into there in the next financial year. Again, we need to do that research work to see if there is a want, but certainly indications would suggest at this stage, yes.
Terrific, and you'll keep us updated on
Yes.
progress.
Absolutely.
And if there's anything that we can do to assist, potentially. Kia ora. Thanks.
Excellent, colleagues. So the motion for this one, this is item 7, external agencies, page 14, which is simply to receive the report. I'll move, seconded. That's what I was about to add. It's all right. Seconded by Councillor Louise. Thank you. With the additional staff action. Samantha, you've got that? Excellent. Sorry, Stephanie, sorry. You suddenly became my daughter there momentarily. I've corrected that, sorry. Right, so it's on the table. Any debate? No debate? Oh, sorry. Deputy Mayor.
I'm just going to give some flowers, virtual flowers to, but don't have real ones, sorry, to Vanessa and Mike. Look, we're really fortunate to have such a strong business association for our centre, and I know that Vanessa does, and she's included in her report a whole lot of work in helping the other centres, Tauranga, I think, I can't remember, Hastings might have been on there. So in terms of what they need to achieve to create a vibrant central city. And despite all of the challenges that Vanessa and Vicky deal with on a day-to-day basis, they remain positive and a conduit for their members. I've been here long enough, and I know Councillor, the Chair Wilson has as well, to have seen a few different iterations of a business association, and hands down, this is the most connected, the best advocacy and the strongest that we've had the whole time. So thank you very much.
Councillor Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I just really want to thank you for all of your work, Vanessa, and thank you also, Mike. And yeah, it's fantastic the energy you bring to this role. I do think that as a council, I mean, we face financial constraints, but I think it would be prudent for us at some point to be reflecting on whether what we put into events in the central city is at the right level, given it is where our focus is and needs to be, and we really want to see it to thrive. I worry about the increasing vacancy rates, and we know that events are our biggest lever for bringing people into the central city, but we can't expect it to happen without doing something different. So I would welcome more conversation and reflection on where we go in the future with that. Thanks.
Mayor Paula.
Thank you. Just want to, and sorry, had to duck out, but want to add my vote of thanks for the really good work that you've done, especially the work that you've done alongside us with city safety. It's not something we've altogether solved. It's a hard nut to crack. I was in a meeting with the People's Project this morning, and we were talking about antisocial behaviour and a few things like that, and the amount of people that are now, especially, and it does happen before Christmas as well, more people coming out to sleep on the streets or hang around and those kind of things. And an interesting thing that they told me was that that because nobody can get any access to health at the moment, they're seeing more people in a state of distress and ill health on the streets, leading to those kind of antisocial behaviours you might see sometimes. So this is such a complex ecosystem. You know, the health service is not meeting the needs of people at the moment. There's no doctor in Hamilton who's got an open book at the moment, so you're all on a waiting list to get to a GP, and they especially find it difficult to get people who have no fixed home into healthcare. So when I hear things like that, I think about the role we've got to play as council and as HCBA. We can only play our part and keep communicating about the issues that underline the issues that we're seeing. We're doing a lot of thinking around public space, Vanessa, you know, and you will have a key role in that, because I can assure you that we are aware that the theatre will be opening, and we want everything to be spangly and sparkly and lovely and safe at that time. So we want to work very strongly with you. And thank you for all you do with your boundless energy. And even when you're being critical, you seem to somehow do it in a reasonably nice way. So I'm very, very, very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. Councillor Anna.
Yeah. Thank you both for all the work you do. It's amazing. It's just an incredible report list of activities, so really appreciate it. And thank you too for, I guess, acknowledging the antisocial behaviour and the links to homelessness and increasing homelessness, because I think we are actually seeing that, and our frontline services are reporting that. So I really, I just thank you for highlighting it. And also thank you for connecting with organisations like the Serve, because every night of the week they're there feeding our community, and often they're the same people that are in the CBD or in Garden Place that are going to the Serve. And just a plug, I guess, to promote that as part of our CBD life, that we actually have a meal every night of the week for people ongoingly. So yeah, it would be good, as Maria highlighted too, just to see some of that stuff coming through the Love the Centre web page and promotions. And equally, yes, your point around how we should promote Garden Place more. I think that was, and I saw Sean nodding over there to suggest that that might be possible, I hope. So I think, yeah. But thank you for your work, thank you for your connections, and thank you for your energy, yeah.
Colleagues, that's, I think, everybody. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those against?
The motion was carried unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Vanessa and Mike. Now, I know some of us will need a bathroom break soon, but I am going to try to do the General Manager's report, item 8 first. Is that okay? Because the last thing I want you is feeling uncomfortable. But after the GM's report, we'll have a quick break, and then we'll try to get through and close the meeting by midday. How's that for an aspiration? Right. Item 8, Blair, General Manager's report.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors. The report is the final summary of our progress against outcomes for the year. And I draw your attention to attachment 1, which goes through the key themed outcome areas for the committee. You'll see that across the board there's been a lot of progress made. In particular, as referenced earlier, the Municipal Endowment Fund property activities have been quite extensive for the committee, and there's some more matters on the public excluded agenda today. From the economic development perspective, there's been good outcomes achieved, and Mike and Tiki will refer to those in the next report, including initiatives around a collaborative economic development partnership with our other councils in the Waikato following the demise of Te Waka. We've also had very successful activities across events, tourism and visitation, which General Manager Sean Murray has spoken to a number of occasions. So across the board, very pleasing outcomes from the staff in terms of delivering against the work programme. The only other thing I'd just add in my report, I also just provide some information on the resolution passed the last meeting in regards to the airport and the runway extension, and just asking that the airport company work with shareholders to understand and to further explore the likes of the Puawai proposal, understand more information around what's required, noting that the runway designation expires, I think, in June 26, and any application to extend that needs to be put in only 3 months prior to that. So there's a bit of an update there, but happy to take any questions from myself or General Manager Sean Murray on the Council report. Thank you.
Excellent. Colleagues, Councillor Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Blair, mine was just a request for staff action, if possible, to provide. It would be helpful to have some more information on the requirements as we know it, I guess, around electric planes, and because I'm interested in the comment that they require longer runways, but then potentially the runway designation doesn't actually provide a long enough runway for the future of electric planes. So further information around that would be incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, noted. But maybe particularly in the context of some of Air New Zealand's plans, but also a demarcation with AAMs, Advanced Air Mobility, where in fact they're vertical takeoff and landing. So you'll need no runway at all. And that's a dynamic, live, active right now under the sort of low altitude economy initiative, which Mayor Paula and I are working on. So there are 2 aspects to that. Excellent. Any questions of staff on the report? No? Okay, so I will move that we receive the GM's report on page 59, seconded by Councillor Jeff. All those in favour say aye. Those against?
The motion was carried unanimously.
Okay, colleagues, can I ask for a 10-minute coffee break? So if we come back at, say, 11:05. Thank you. quorum, and we're on item 9, which is always the most exciting item because we have Mike and Tiki. Mike and Tiki, please come on down. Excellent. Mike, we're in your hands.
You note that I have notes and Tiki doesn't.
Ah.
So very quickly, respecting, exactly, you said it.
We've got a presentation, don't we?
Pardon me?
There's a presentation. Oh, Tiki's
part,
okay.
yep. So I just wanted to really quickly run through an update on regional development, almost sort of on a macro level, breaking it into really how we've come to look at it as the regional bits evolved, focusing on local and sub-regional, so really what we do the majority of the time at HCC and I guess I'd say at a future-proof level, but not constricted to that. Foremost is the business relationships and engagement bit, which RF Khan leads. And just to update on the GM report, I guess tracker, we had noted that we were nearing 80 completed engagements. Our target was 75. Since then, just with the end of year push, RF's gotten that to 131 total engagements. So, you know, massive congrats to him for really diving into that effort. And just interestingly, the split of type of businesses he's meeting with, about half are manufacturing, wide range there, 35% around tech and innovation, and then 17% around logistics. That's a pretty good reflection of the share of those types of businesses. So very important there. What that is a springboard to a lot of the other stuff we do that I won't go into it, but whether it's discussions about rates or hosting Logan or a number of other things, all begin and end with those relationships, bringing business to the table in a way that can help all of those streams of work. The other 3 bits I'll mention on local and sub-regional are investment promotion. So just touching on the work there, working with Neil Quigley and the university on the medical school, supported by Councillor Tim, and just really seeing what we can do in that space to promote the potential for that massive project. And then 2 others, sector-based strategies, Tech and the Tron. I won't go into the details, except to say we are now purposefully now being contacted by people who see it as a valuable platform to boost their presence. One company in particular we're working on a story right now on shared with us something interesting, I think particularly, Chair, you'd be interested in. They said they have multiple offices in New Zealand, a relatively new one here. Their growth is going quite high. They are choosing and have committed to look to grow here and not other places, specifically because they've just gotten a client in Australia. They're going to grow that client base, and the direct flight connectivity that's coming makes it a no-brainer to add that staff here as opposed to other places. So I think anecdotal and just one example, but really key to show that some of the things that happen have direct impacts on what we're here for, and that's business growth and job growth. And then lastly, picking up on an item from, I believe, last meeting, Councillor Moko raised and others around workforce development. That's top of the list for our regional group. Because it's such an issue that crosses boundaries, we've highlighted it as really working with the university and WinTech and all of the TAs around workforce issues, again, not city by city, but sector by sector or sub-region by sub-region. So picking up that work next week and into the new year. Very quickly at the end, we have formed an alliance, or I guess a working group of all 11 TAs, the economic development staff, plus Regional Council. Regional Council is working towards what economic development means for them. I think that's a piece of work for them to own and us to help inform. You know, Blair and I have had really constructive dialogues with the CE there and staff. So we're going to continue to support that work. In the meantime, at the TA level, we've now established a group. We've highlighted what we want to prioritize as a region. all driven by our local needs. It all comes back to what's important to us at the local level and elevating the areas of commonality and working on them together. So medical school might very well be one of them. Data and analytics is one of them. Telling our story as a region effectively to outsiders is another one. And then actually interesting, what a lot of the councils brought up was mentoring and skills. So how can we, who have varying experiences, come together as a group of 11 and lift our collective abilities in this space together? So a lot there. I'll leave it there if you have any questions.
There's a few questions. I know I have one. Deputy Mayor Angela.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the report. I'm on page 63 in Diligent. I just need some clarification on the Economic Development Program, the Waikato Regional Council business case. It reads to me like there could be work being done to establish an economic development agency on the back of the last one that just closed.
So we don't support that. I don't think they do either. Perhaps Mayor Paula might want to comment, given off the conversation that happened at Mayoral Forum, but I don't believe that that's at all on the cards, and I think as much has been said informally or formally.
Okay, all right.
My face, but anyway. Yes, no, they're not thinking of an agency, they're thinking of an overarching regional economic strategy. It very dovetails into regional deals too, they're thinking. So the two things, in the view of the Mayoral Forum, are not discrete. We have a really good, sound macro picture of the regional economy, and from that, you can then assess or put through that lens the right projects for regionally significant deals. They weren't necessarily very happy that we seem to be running a little bit outside of their process, but we've kind of soothed that concern by making it quite clear that we still support the macro picture that is the economic development of the whole region. We still want to understand where the opportunities lie for the region in the broad, but we want to focus on the things that we know are tangible and beneficial to our local area, and we will negotiate. So the chief executives are doing some further talking about both those topics, about regional economic development and regional deals, to see if we can make sure there again that we have complementary language and approaches to our role in the Waikato region.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. And just one other question on the proposed medical centre, medical school, pardon me. I'm not aware, correct me if I'm wrong, that council has had a determination of support. Like, have we had any formal direction from council or the committee?
So working with the university, they viewed this quite specifically as something that was talked about and has now moved into the doing phase. We've been very open with them about, we are here to support you in any way. So far that has been quite specific, and we've offered a letter of support, which is all they need at the moment. However, as they continue through the process, specifically around the impact studies that they're requiring to show the value. Just in fact, yesterday I was speaking to Mr. Quigley about, again, reinforcing that we stand ready to work with them in whatever way they need. I think it's a very, there's a lot of focus on the process at the very senior levels. So in terms of our role, and Chair Ewan's been very clear to make sure that they understand and know there's no confusion around the fact that we're here to do whatever they need, and that dialogue is ongoing.
Possibly a question then to the chair of the committee. Is there a rough timeline that you see where we would, where the point would come where we would need to formally as a council support the proposal?
Yes, And I think there are two steps. I know Mayor Paula has already written a letter of support from the mayoral office.
Yeah.
I have spoken with staff and the mayor about the next step where the city takes an official stance as a result of a resolution of council. My feeling, and I've raised it with Mike, is that should be underpinned by an economic impact study that has been prepared, because without that, it would simply be equivalent to the letter from the mayor sort of saying, this sounds good. And so we do need to do that, and there is still ongoing discussion who should fund that economic impact study.
I think, to be clear, one will be done by the university. It's core of what they're doing. I think the question is, how do we best support that I've put to Neil? Yeah, so it's being done, and I guess we'll wait for lead from then on how are we best to add value to that. To go and do another one that says the same thing may not be productive, but we're really in the discussion phase about
Although I think the Deputy Mayor is correct in saying ultimately, this council has to pass a motion to provide unfettered support, and this council would have to decide, are they happy just to take on face value an economic impact study authored by a third party, or whether we would feel there's a logical step for a peer review just to verify, but we've yet to have that discussion. But it is a fascinating insight, again, where we must be reminded that there is a difference between a letter of support from the mayoral office, albeit an important thing, versus a council position based on a resolution, right? Because the latter is the one that has the power. The former does not, right? The former, respectfully, from the mayor, is in a position of the mayor in her capacity. It does not mean one of all of council. That only comes from a resolution, and we've discussed this. This shouldn't come as any surprise, right?
You'll find that in workshops, may I just clarify a small thing? You're not wrong about the formality of the process. I'm not correcting you on that. Just in terms of mandate, this council has been quite clear in a number of economic development workshops that they wanted me to give positive signals around our support for the medical school. I haven't heard any dissenting view, and that is well documented in the minutes and various notes from meetings, and that is exactly what I have done. I think we need to be very careful now of even intimating that support might not be there in the strength it was. So if that is the case, it would be sooner rather than later that we start to talk about whether this council, and I certainly 100% do, support this project. Because we're not being asked for anything, we're being asked to be supportive partners without any resource at this point in time.
Deputy Mayor, does that help answer your question? Okay. Councillor Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. While we are in economic development, would it be fair to say for council to, when it's considering a formal resolution around its support, we'd be considering more than just an economic impact analysis, right? There's a whole range of benefits. Yeah. When would it, in light of the previous questions, when would be a realistic timeframe for some further information on this to come to us and for council to be able to formally have the opportunity to consider formally endorsing it as a council? Yeah, that's the first question. What would be a realistic timeframe?
Look, I think we're very much in the hands of the university at the moment, Councillor Sarah. Obviously sometime before June next year, I would imagine, but I think we'll probably need to pick it up with Professor Quigley understand their exact timeframes, and it'll be possibly the first committee next year. But well, I think we need to be clear: it's their business case, it's their process, it's not ours. We're a city, we're wanting to facilitate economic opportunities, so we're very much in their hands through Mike. We're having good engagement. Obviously, they've got their team doing their work, they've got their team preparing their economic analysis. So we're very much, and Councillor Tim may have some information, we're very much supporting them. There's also conversations around the on-site campus developments and infrastructure and those considerations. So there's many layers to support here. But I think we'll just take a note that there is a desire for council to hear more information, but we are very much dependent on what the university provides and when it's available. And of course, they're working to a government process.
Thank you.
Councillor Louise.
Thank you. I just wanted to seek a little bit of clarity. You said you were working with Councillor Tim. Is that in Councillor Tim's paid capacity with the university to promote the medical school, or is that as a councillor? It just feels, I'm a bit confused about that.
So going back to the group that we've formed of the 11 TAs of economic development professionals, really it's more just connecting in Councillor Tim, who the university's asked to help them with the right people at the different orgs, because one thing I didn't mention is, and Neil Quigley makes this point really well, is that the uplift of this, although the actual medical school will be in our city, it really is regionally and actually nationally uplifting. So again, engaging my counterparts who might choose to do the very same thing that we've done or more with Councillor Tim and his role helping the university to spread the word.
Okay. So that's okay. And as this progress, is there going to be advice about possible conflicts of interest? Or if we're continuing down this path, is there going to be a clear distinction? Open to the room for whoever wants to answer that.
To each elected member
Sure.
to advance whether they believe they are conflicted. Currently, in this case, since there's been no formal vote by this council as to a position, then there can be no confliction. In the same way of when an issue comes before this council where you're from the organisation of which you're a chair, you would avoid.
But I'm not paid to be a chair.
That's irrespective. Whether it's paid or unpaid, you would, in theory, be potentially conflicted. But again, that would be the fact that you receive remuneration or not for a role does not negate the objectivity of whether there's a perception of conflict, right? So my point is this.
I don't think this is the question I'm asking, but
it's at the very heart of the question you're asking. You're trying to raise whether or not an elected member has...
No, I was seeking clarity.
Well, let me give you that clarity. There has been no decision of this council, formal decision, to support or not. In fact, there's been certainly a lot of discussion about we support the medical school, but we haven't voted on it. So Councillor Tim can't be conflicted. He has the right to have a work life, and he will manage his conflict if and when it arises, just like every other elected member. Is that what you're trying to... does that answer your question, or was there something...
No, right. But
so could you rephrase...
Fine. I feel like this is getting...
No, you've...
snowballing.
Councillor Louise, it's all right. I'll chair the meeting. Maybe I've misunderstood your question. Let's go back a step. Exactly what is your question, and who is your question directed at?
So my original question was to Mike around what capacity, is Councillor Tim acting in. It seemed to be in his capacity with the university. My next question was, will there be advice? I would assume
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Will there be advice?
Okay.
If the answer is yes, that's a very short answer.
Right, and so you're expecting an answer from Mike, or who are you expecting that answer from?
Well, if you're happy to tell me yes, there will be advice, or it is up to the elected member, sure, but
Okay, well...
is that what I'm supposed to take from your answer?
Yeah, if you're asking whether or not there will be advice, whether or not there's a conflict, is that the question?
Will there be advice on how to manage a conflict, if there is one? Yeah, and that's what I was just seeking clarity on.
Look, I find this is unfortunate because we've now had a series of questions from an elected member that's highlighting another elected member's other outside of council role. And so now I feel obligated to sort of let Councillor Tim respond to the question. So, Councillor Tim, do you think you can respond to Councillor Louise's question?
Thank
you. Can I just be clear though?
Actually, Chair, I think it was the staff who mentioned Councillor Tim's involvement rather than an elected member.
Okay, thank you.
I'm willing to apologise if I've inferred something. I was just seeking clarity on process rather than on inference.
I'm really glad you've raised the issue of process. So let me first of all rule on the point of order. Councillor Maxine, that wasn't a point of order. It's an expression of, it's not a point of order. Councillor Louise, you're entitled to ask the question. Councillor Tim has now agreed to try to answer the question, so let's let him answer the question you've raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will try to be quick. Just to clarify, yes, I do have a contract with the University of Waikato as the ambassador for the New Zealand Graduate School of Medicine, which is the official name for the Waikato Medical School. Part of my role is to liaise with territorial authorities throughout the country, and that process is just getting underway, but also with philanthropic trusts and others. Primarily at this stage just to raise awareness of the proposal and to highlight how we believe this can be very beneficial. I can give an absolute assurance that up until this point there has been no conflict of interest because of that role, and that at all stages, should it come to this council table for discussion leading to a decision or a resolution, that I will declare that conflict at the outset and recuse myself from any voting.
Right, I think that's a very simple answer to your question. Do you have any other question, Councillor Louise? Great. Okay. All right. So, Mike, the only question I have, following on from your comment of some of the feedback we've had from companies saying the addition of international flights has been very important. Can you give me any insight from your own experiences how important international connectivity can be for cities' economic growth? Because
I think particularly given in the tech sector as an example, that FaceTime with customers is critical. Now, working really well as it stood prior to international flights, with the access to Auckland Airport, you know, relatively easy. However, this just, for obvious reasons, ups the ante. I think more importantly, what I'm hearing from companies who are more global in nature, just the anticipation of the ability to connect into a Sydney, for example, that then unlocks everywhere that you can fly from Sydney. It's just another option. I don't think it's necessarily what was holding them back at all. They were doing just fine accessing Auckland, but it really just brings in that ease of travel, that access to customers. And then what I've heard interestingly is they feel like as they go to attract talent, it's just another thing in the lifestyle bucket that makes living here, you know, that much easier, more desirable for a whole host of reasons. So it's additive in every way. You don't often have the hard data to prove it, so I've found that some of these conversations where a CE says we're growing and I want to grow here rather than other places because I can be right into Sydney and service my clients there was I think, relevant.
excellent, thank you for that. Tiki, we're in your hands.
Morena koutou.
I'll keep this really short. As you would have seen, the OCR has fallen again as expected, and the RBNZ has, as close as you can, said that there will be another drop in February. All of these are good things for interest rates and people paying mortgages and businesses and developers. Inevitably, it will affect house prices, and we will see an increase in house prices. As we've discussed previously, that's a double-sided coin. It helps us in terms of encouraging more development because house prices are better, but it does affect affordability, though lower interest rates does make it more affordable to pay a higher price. So there are a lot of catches in that. After February, the RBNZ has been really clear that it's going to be data-driven, so it's going to depend a lot on what happens in the broader economy. Most of the market is expecting another 1 or 2 falls. So looking at 3.5% as the OCR, so then we're looking at sort of 5%-ish interest rates for people. Coming back to the consenting, you would have seen that I provided what our latest forecasts are for consenting. You will see that it is lower than we expected a year ago, and you'll see that that's a longer low period. This has a lot to do with the ability to finance, the feasibility, and house prices. On a plus side, one thing we've noticed this month is we're starting to see a really slow uptick in the number of houses under construction. That has been plummeting for the last year and a half, and we're just starting to see a few green shoots that suggest that some of our builders are looking out to when their project will be finished and thinking that it'll be more able to get a better price in the future. So there are some green shoots, but we are looking at another sort of 6 months of really low consenting and low construction activity across Hamilton. I'll leave it there, but obviously open to any other questions.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair Ewan. So, Tiki, would you say that there is currently a shortfall of construction to support the population growth that we are having and hope to have in the future?
There's definitely a lot of pressure on particularly on our rental markets. And if you look at the number of houses we theoretically need based on population growth, we are well under what's being delivered. That will add pressure to prices as well, which theoretically could help feasibility over the long run, but yes, it is a concern.
Thank you.
Tiki, I've just got at least one question on inflation. So if you turn your mind to our LTP or LTP variation / annual plan, it's a sort of a combo. Are you currently comfortable with the inflationary rates that we have in the draft plan, acknowledging there are 2 different inflation rates, one for CapEx and one for OpEx?
You're talking about the revised BERL?
Yes.
Yes, so I've been through the BERL forecasts. They have changed their methodology, and they now check what their model is putting out against a few real-world indicators, which puts me much more at ease compared to what they were doing in the past. They've also increased their expectations around inflation, which aligns better with what we're expecting. And we kind of feel like we're moving into a period of greater stability without as many sort of unexpected turns. So broadly, yes, especially in the first sort of 5 years, and then as we sort of look longer out, they may be a little bit low, but we're confident that we can adjust that path if needed. Would be.
Excellent. That gives me the confidence if you're comfortable.
And that is what's coming forward in the papers to Council next week.
Great. Colleagues, do you have any other questions of our very talented staff? No? Okay, so I will move the motion that we receive the economic update on page 63, seconded by Councillor Tim. I'll put it out for debate. Mayor Southgate.
Thank you very much for the report, and thank you. It gives us a little bit of hope with a little bit of recovery in the economy is good. In terms of economic development, I was unaware until recently of the staff doing that work, but I think the work is a good body of work, and it's really good to see the collaboration between economic professionals. We just have to be really careful to also have collaboration at a political level and to not cause undue concern amongst our neighbours, because really we're all pushing to the same positive end. So I think it is important to keep talking with the Regional Council, who were given the mandate by the Mayoral Forum to do some overarching work to pull everything together that people are doing in this space to create a one picture for the Waikato region that we can all dip in and out of. That doesn't mean we don't continue on our own route and our own trajectory, and we don't put effort into the economic development aspects that deliver best benefit to the city and sub-region. We do, but we do need to be collegial in our relationships with our regional mayors, and we want to, at the end of the day, create as many win-wins out of the work that we do, so that economic uplift has a benefit for Hamilton, for the future-proof sub-region, and the wider Waikato, because we do well when the wider Waikato does well, and vice versa. Not forgetting, of course, that Hamilton's success rests on the back of a strong cultural and horticultural industry, aquaculture even now. So we're all part of the same system, and I just want to put that note of caution to make sure that as the staff proceed, and they're very passionate about the work that they do, that they also ensure that the politicians are on board with what's happening. Thank you.
Any other speakers? I'll quickly just, I'm particularly supportive of the work that Mike is doing in the Economic Development Committee and his work with the 11 other territorial authorities, just to ensure that there is a level of coordination. So I'm very clear that each of those territorial authorities have their own economic development aspirations, and in most cases they have their own ED experts working away at economic development, enabling and facilitating. Hamilton is blessed to have some very capable people doing that. The work that he is also doing is ensuring that there is at least a sense of coordination, and I think that's what the Mayor was saying, that as long as there's a level of coordination, that does not mean that the essential work will be done within each of the territorial's own economic development entities. Secondly, I just want to comment on this discussion about when a council or a mayoral office writes a letter of support. I know personally that I am very supportive of the medical school, and I will continue to sing the virtues of attracting a medical school to the city. A lot of it is intuition. I mean, I base my view on the fact that having a medical school in the city would be absolutely beneficial, both in terms of economic outputs, but social outputs. But I'm also mindful that's not actually underpinned currently by any hard data that I've done or that others have done. And so I think it's absolutely appropriate that the Mayor would write a letter of support. But if we ever get to the stage where the university says they would love to hear a formal position of council, then council has to decide how it will intend to determine those economic and social benefits, and then write a letter confirming and pass a motion. And it shouldn't come as any surprise. Everything we do needs a motion. Otherwise, it's simply an expression of an independent elected member. So it's just a reminder, and staff knows that, and so does the university. Right, with that on the table, oh, excellent. Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair Ewan. Hamilton is a growth city, but it's hard to grow when there is nowhere to live. Page 65, graph 1 is somewhat optimistic. It shows building consents issued rising mid-year. At best, deciding to build may start then, which means a 6-month lag for a simple house to consent issued, 1 year for multi-unit because of design timeframes. Then construction time will double that. Confidence has to lift for a significant increase in the decisions to build, which will only happen after prices have lifted significantly. Council can help by improving consenting timeframes, inspection timeframes and CCC timeframes. The current process is increasing overcrowding. I would like to see us do more to help.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank Tiki for the work that you've done on this presentation here. And looking at page 74 and the graph there, what it shows is that our housing system is fundamentally flawed. It is fundamentally broken because, as it notes, essentially the number of houses being built and our population growth are going in opposite directions right now. So, you know, it's clear there are a number of factors that, including things like interest rates, which really drive the rate of houses being built, but it doesn't reflect the actual need. And so we've had, you know, 6,000 odd net increase to our population and then only around 1,000 extra dwellings. So that doesn't add up in any way, shape or form. I think that there is opportunity for council to do more in terms of how we you know, make it easier to move through consenting processes, but also it's not going to solve this problem. There is a lot more at play here that needs looking at, because we can't continue with these levels of immigration which bring lots of benefits, but at the same time not ensuring that these people can be housed. We should be really worried about these numbers here. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, and also medical school. The benefits that I think from what we've seen so far, there are multiple benefits from that, including making studying medicine much more accessible for a wider range of people. I think that's massive. It means that people can potentially stay closer to home. People with families who are already working in the workforce can have access to an opportunity of doing medicine. There are many things there, so I'm very keen for this to come to council for us to put our support behind it and for us to talk to other parties, because ACT's holding it ransom right now, but maybe there's more cross-the-party support that's possible.
Excellent. Colleagues, no other last-minute speakers. Just a very quick right of reply. I don't disagree with Councillor Sarah in the sense that our current housing market is broken. And I don't disagree that we can blame a lot of it on inflation and other pressures. But can I also say that we're responsible for part of the problem? In the sense that there are multiple communities in this city where you can't subdivide and do your housing currently. There are multiple suburbs in the city where, in fact, you could have had a resource consent, but you can't go ahead because we can't give you a water connection. Multiple. That is our problem. We manage that. And that means we haven't invested enough in waters to enable that connection. Now, we can't blame anybody other than us. That's our core responsibility. So if we want to solve the housing problem, we've got to stop doing other things and reallocate resources to building that infrastructure. The Southern Water Treatment Plant, the current water treatment plant needs to be improved. There are multiple things that we need to redirect to fund the infrastructure that enables those who are already resourced to go ahead, but can't because we can't give a water connection. Right. That's on the table. All those in favour say yes. All those against?
The motion was carried unanimously.
Colleagues, that brings us to the end of the public meeting. I'll move that we go into confidential PX, seconded by Councillor Jeff. All those in favour say aye. Those against, the ayes have it. Just 3 minutes.